SnowTrax is sponsored by Ski-Doo. What matters is what's next. Yamaha, conquers snow. And by FXR Racing, full throttle addiction.
On this week's test ride, I'm going to ask you to keep a little secret for me. I'm not really into four-strokes. So here's the deal. I'm going to attempt to talk you into believing that the 600 E-TEC is the right engine for the 2018 Ski-Doo GTX. The GTX brand is legitimately legendary in the snowmobile biz. Ski-Doo has continually updated, improved, and generally kept their flagship twofer on the cutting edge of passenger hauling technology. In fact, one ride on a Ski-Doo GTX will convince you Ski-Doo has the twofer genre completely figured out. Touring amenities are abundant, and Ski-Doo has introduced many tour-friendly innovations to the sport on GTXs. However, Ski-Doo has continued to insert more four-stroke engines in the GTX, including the 900 Ace and the venerable 1200 Triple. This makes the ubiquitous GTX pretty much a four-stroke only player. So why should anyone buck the system and buy a GTX with a two-stroke engine? The four-stroke gurus will tell you it's a hassle hauling injector oil, and four-strokes always get better fuel economy than two-strokes. These things are as non-negotiable with a legion of twofer riders as a border wall is with Trump. Au contraire, my friends, the 600 E-TEC at 125 horsepower scores the second best fuel economy in the industry, besting the 130 horsepower 1200 four-stroke by a wide margin and scoring within 10% of the 900 Ace mileage. If you consider the weight advantage the E-TEC two-stroke has over virtually any displacement four-stroke, the GTX 600 E-TEC becomes even more attractive. Still, there's that lingering issue of having to carry injector oil. Here's my honest opinion. The 600 E-TEC sips oil and can deliver 1,000 kilometers per liter of injector oil. That's a full 600 miles. The truth is a liter of injector oil takes up about as much room as a cachet of pemmican. If you leave with a full tank, you can easily get close to 1,500 miles with just one spare liter of oil tucked away. So I think I've done a stellar job of convincing a few of you why the 600 E-TEC is a credible power choice for the GTX. Let me enlighten you some more and tell you why the GTX platform is such a good twofer. Ski-Doo's use of the same basic 137-inch R-Motion rear skid gives the same plush response in the GTX as it does in the Renegade. There is simply no better ride right now in the snowmobile biz than R-Motion. And in our opinion, the use of this skid in the GTX produces the best results of any Ski-Doo chassis equipped with R-Motion. This particular GTX is not an SE model, so it doesn't have the adjust-on-the-fly air shock on the rear arm. Truth is, the standard issue R-Motion used here on the GTX can handle a wide range of rider weights. This means that if your passenger is just slightly overnourished, you can usually just saddle up and ride on. Part of the success of R-Motion has been its inherent ability to deliver a near bottomless plush ride with varying loads while not requiring any fiddling. R-Motion is coupled rear to front and couples late in the suspension stroke. The mysterious element of the R-Motion formula is the exceptionally long front torque arm, which also keeps bump energy from entering the chassis until late in the suspension stroke. Comfort on the GTX for both pilot and passenger is outstanding. This is a result of ergonomics that have been designed to make the twofer experience almost transparent. Making the twofer experience transparent might be a bad thing for the passenger if he or she is your significant other. Let's leave that whole line of reasoning alone. What we can say is this: the GTX can be ridden aggressively in twisty trails with two adults loaded on the sumptuous king-queen seat. Even though the GTX is a variant of the familiar XS platform, in this rendition the XS decidedly displays sit-down ergonomics. Other touring amenities include this large enclosed rear cargo rack, which accepts a wide variety of Ski-Doo touring accessories. The rear seat accoutrements on this base-level GTX are impressive. There's a comfortable rear backrest, passenger footrests, heated handholds with handguards, and a connector for an electric face shield. Combine these features with a ginormous windshield equipped with extra deflectors, and you've got as comfortable and warm a place for 2 winter adventurers as this industry offers. If I were buying a GTX twofer, I can honestly say my choice for power would be the 600 E-TEC. However, a legion of four-strokers will continue to disagree. I can only hope that a few intelligent ones will ultimately buy into my sensible rationale.
It's been a while since we've talked about the benefits of studding, and so today, instead of just talking about it, I'm going to give you some solid visuals to help reinforce exactly what you can expect from a high-quality traction package. We're going to start with 2 sleds that are real similar, minus 2 big and important features: track length and engine displacement. The SnowTrax XCR 600 Rush is only 120 inches long and it's a 600cc, while the 800 XCR Switchback is a 136-inch and it's got 200 more cc's. It's pretty obvious the long track 800 would be the sled of choice for both acceleration and braking due to the better contact patch with the ground. But what if we increase the grip of the SnowTrax Rush? Can it stand toe-to-toe with a larger Switchback? On its own, not a chance, but when we enlist the help of Woodies, I think we're in for a real competition here. And the results? Well, you'll just have to wait a little bit longer. First, I'm going to update the complete traction package on the Rush, ditching the almost non-existent stock carbides and going to a premium 6-inch 60-degree carbide runner per side. This will help balance out the traction increase in the rear from the 84 studs we'll be placing on the inner portion of the track surface. We'll be going 2 studs per pitch and using a simple Woodies traction guide to help keep us lined up and make things simple, along with a Woodies track pen to mark the places we'll be drilling. Once the track is all marked up, in comes the fun part, grabbing a fresh Woodies drill bit and repeating the process 84 times. Once all the holes are drilled, it's on to installing our Gold Digger Traction Master 1.325 studs, backers, and nuts, and then tightening them all up. This process is pretty easy with the install tools from Woodies, but if you're not too sure about it, just have your dealer do the work. It's not that expensive to have done. Now for the fun part, testing. For my first series of tests, we're going to run 2 different drag races to see which one of these sleds leaves the line better. Up first is the fresh snow test. Both the 600 and 800 are lined up and we'll see who gets better acceleration. While the 800 does still leave with authority, the 600 found the bottom, in our case, an ice base on this lake, and was able to get traction even still while the 800 left more of a polished surface. Round 2 is leaving from a completely ice surface. I can't even count how many times I've been riding and found a polished lake or portions of it where an unstudded sled gets a bit squirrely. Side by side, the 800 is working like a Zamboni to polish the ice to a mirror finish, while the 84 Gold Diggers are able to cut through the surface and propel the 600 forwards with ease. When the snow is abundant, there's not a whole lot of difference, but if you encounter ice, there's absolutely zero comparison. So now let's move on to braking. Using a similar polished ice surface, we'll come into the ice and attempt to stop from 20 miles per hour to demonstrate the effectiveness of a studded sled. It's not going to take much to prove the point here, as the 800 long track slides clean through the stopping surface and even gets a little sideways. The 600 keeps a line, stops with authority, and keeps the confidence level high when the conditions would try to make you feel otherwise if not studded. While on the ice surface, we wanted to also visualize the balanced traction of a high-quality carbide and stud package in a worst-case scenario when turning would be required. Entering a polished ice surface and attempting to make a smooth turn at low speed even causes our non-equipped sled to get out of control, while the studded 600 cruises right on through without a hesitation. While these situations are not an everyday experience, when you do encounter them, there's nothing like the assurance a snowmobile with a quality carbide and stud package delivers. Now our final comparo is really more of a balanced traction test, where we're going to run a set of corners with our Woodies equipped XCR and then go through the same set of corners on the non-equipped 800 XCR. What we're trying to achieve here is the feel of holding the corner, and it's evident almost immediately with the Woodies equipped XCR Rush. Through the corners, it holds its line up front and likewise exits hard but controlled due to the front end grip of the 6-inch carbides and the rear bite of the 84 Gold Digger 1.325 studs. The non-equipped sled still handles very well, but it pushes more in the corners, and if there are any grooves to skip over, it loses the positive bite the XCR delivers. While it's harder to visualize, it's very easy to feel from behind the bars. Folks back in the day used to stud their snowmobiles like an 80s teenager who got a bedazzler for their jean jacket. It was way too much, and the unbalance in traction caused negative handling effects. But when used properly, you can gain traction in all the situations you need it without sacrificing in those that you don't.
Trail Tech is sponsored by Princess Auto, a unique world of equipment, tools, and more.
Each season we like to show you cool new products from MBRP that focus on performance as well as reducing weight on your sled. And this year we're going to show you something for the all-new E-TEC 2 800 DSI motor. Coming in many forms, from mountain to crossover and trail, the 800 E-TEC has been well received by Arctic loyalists who are anticipating the new tech motor to hit the ground. While the performance and horsepower numbers of the Slot Skirt 800 are already really impressive, MBRP was able to squeeze just a little bit more and gain huge in weight savings. I love speaking with the folks behind the scenes at MBRP because they always tell me the truth. If a motor is underperforming and they can pull more horsepower from it, they'll tell you exactly what they can get. Big surprise, right? But if a motor is already overperforming and there's really not that much left, they're still going to tell you the truth. And with the 800 E-TEC 2, MBRP put in many hours of dyno and flow bench testing to try to pull every little bit they could out of the new motor. In the end, there's two unique designs, each targeted towards a different riding segment. And as always, we encourage you to check your local, province, and state regulations for aftermarket exhaust modifications as well as decibel limits. Up first is the all-new and extensively tested 800 E-TEC 2 trail exhaust, or a can as we like to call them. This 304 stainless exhaust is very easy to install and super durable. The trail can increase the horsepower output of your 800 DSI by 1 horse. Not a whole lot, but MBRP found the DSI required increased back pressure to maintain optimal performance and therefore built that into the design of the trail can. All brackets are laser cut and the decibel level meets sound requirements where exhaust modifications are allowed on trails. The biggest news though is the weight savings that this can takes your sled on. Able to drop a whopping 11 pounds of fat, this can alone does what would take thousands of dollars to do with aftermarket titanium or carbon fiber. In the crossover and mountain markets, 11 pounds is just plain huge. Now when we switch gears to the race can, we get an even sleeker setup, a little bit of an increase in decibels, as well as an even further reduction in weight if you can actually believe it. The E-TEC 2 race exhaust is recommended for competition use. It's all kinds of wonderful when you squeeze the throttle, and it lets others know exactly where you are. The horsepower numbers stay true at 1 horse increase, but the weight savings, yeah, they go deeper at an extra 2 pounds, which makes for a total of 13 pounds that MBRP was able to ditch in just the exhaust canister. If you're running high altitude, shredding 13 pounds is not just significant, it's incredible. The race can is made with the same 304 stainless material and laser cut brackets, and it mounts up just as easily with only a few minutes required to install. I know the specs and all the techie information is really what makes an exhaust great, but at the end of the day, there's one test that really hits home for most of us motorheads. Seated on the sled, cruising down the lake at wide open throttle or revving the engine through the parking lot at the local weekend hangout is where all that sound is put to good use. Much like the sound of a 90-degree V-twin motorcycle with straight pipes, the sound of a 2-stroke big bore with a quality exhaust system from MBRP is like music to our ears, and always brings out the crowds to see what you've got under the hood. And with the 304 polished stainless, you can be sure when you crack open your side panel, you won't have to worry what you're packing isn't enough to impress. I really appreciate the truthfulness with the numbers from MBRP. While the horsepower is only mildly increased, the weight savings are huge, as is the mental horsepower. And we can do all of this for under $300, both Canadian and American.
Closed captioning of SnowTrax is sponsored by Triton Trailers, built for adventure.
It would be easy to focus all of our excitement about Arctic Cat's 2018 ZR8000 ES on its motor. It's what we've been waiting for. waiting a long time for, so getting excited about it is perfectly reasonable. But the truth is, there's a lot more new stuff going on with this sled that, in terms of real-world usability, is almost equally as exciting. Okay, maybe not equally, but it is exciting nonetheless. So let's start off today talking about that stuff, and we'll end by talking about the motor. Now, the first piece of newness we need to discuss is the most obvious, and that's the bodywork. Underneath the bodywork, the chassis of the sled is the same as the 2017 models, but the bodywork itself has been completely reworked to be sleeker, sexier, and most importantly, more functional and easier to use. The side panels are the same as those found on the Turbo, with the great big air scoops on both sides. They attach to the sled with unbelievably slick quarter-turn fasteners, and the way they hinge open gives greater access to all the goodness hiding underneath. The new look is more streamlined. Arctic Cat says it's more aerodynamic, and it's way more functional. It's a winner, and we love it. But underneath that new bodywork is another big change you may not see, but you'll definitely feel. Arctic's new Rapid Response 2 primary and Boss secondary are kind of a big deal in how they deal with a problem no other clutch does. This clutch combo has an auto belt adjustment system, and let's not downplay how awesome this is. Everybody knows one of the key elements of keeping your sled running at its peak is to keep your belt adjusted correctly. This can be a bit of a pain. With a new Rapid Response 2 primary and Boss secondary, it's all automatically done for you. Another thing this primary clutch does is lower the starting ratio by 12.5% without changing the final ratio. This means no change in top speed, but the new starting ratio allows for smoother clutch engagement and less belt wear at takeoff speeds. Does it work? Well, we absolutely did notice that this sled engages very smoothly, but we initially couldn't decide if this was due to the clutch or to the E-TEC 2 800's improved bottom end smoothness. In the end, we have to conclude it's a combination of both. Now let's get to the biggest news from Arctic Cat in 2018, the new E-TEC 2 800. Now the whole industry has already said this multiple times, but I'm going to say it again. This was a long time coming. E-TEC 2 is a semi-direct injection system similar to Polaris' Cleanfire system in that it is not direct injected like Skidoo's E-TEC. Also, the E-TEC 2 800 is not just the old 800 with semi-direct injection. This is a completely new motor. And thank goodness for that. Yes, the old 800 did make good horsepower up top, and if you were really pushing it hard, it could be fun to ride. But anyone who tried to ride that motor slowly or smoothly knew that it really suffered down low. This new engine could be described as ultra torquey. It pulls like a truck down low and in the mid-range, yet still pulls strong up top. On top of that, the E-TEC 2 allows for cleaner operating, smoother running, better starting, and a more efficient motor. And these are all the things the old 800 definitely was not. We put a good amount of miles on our 2018 ZR8000, and here's what we really think about this motor. It's a home run. It's everything we thought it could be, and then even a little bit more. The rest of this Arctic Cat ZR8000 ES is on the basic side, which is okay because it is a base model. We're even okay with the non-adjustable shocks again because it's a base model. Even though these shocks are preload and oddly enough rebound adjustable only, this sled rides amazing, and that's no overstatement. Arctic Cat has got its suspension settings dialed. From small stutter bumps to bigger chop, that slide action skid frame soaks up anything you can throw at it, as does the race front end. Higher end models with higher end adjustable shock packages and consequently higher price tags can be set up to ride even better, but in the case of this base model, we're not complaining one bit. The same goes for handling. This is the best handling Arctic Cat snowmobile we've ever tested. Turn-in is precise and predictable. It holds its line all the way through the corner. It keeps the skis on the ground, and yet it doesn't dart in any significant way. 2017 Arctic Cats weren't bad handling sleds by any stretch of the imagination, but this 2018 model is just that much better. Our final thoughts on the 2018 Arctic Cat ZR8000 ES. It has everything you need and nothing you don't. Electric start, reverse, a Ripsaw 125 track, and a set of good quality, albeit limited adjustability, Fox Zero RC shocks. It also has a motor that will leave you with a smile on your face both when you hit the throttle and when you hit the pumps. Finally, it has a price tag that is, in the 800 class at least, affordable. These are just some of the reasons the 2018 Arctic Cat ZR 8000 ES has become a sled we highly recommend.
Thanks for watching this week's episode.
You're definitely not going to want to miss next week's episode though, because we're going to pick our 2018 Real World Sled of the Year.
So we'll see you next week right here on SnowTrax Television.
SnowTrax has been sponsored by Polaris. See endless possibilities. MBRP Performance Exhaust. Race inspired. Trail proven. And by Arctic Cat. Share our passion.